I was listening to a lovely piano sonata, and then this guy Doug Ford comes up. Like, what gives here? Mr. Ford, what gives? How, how did this guy become premier? How did Doug Ford become premier? He was a fail as a municipal councilor. He was a fail there. I know his brother Rob. Rob was in politics municipally long before Doug Ford. Rob, the people love. Rob got stuff done. But I've sat right here between where just a little more than my microphone, one-on-one with Rob and discuss things. But Rob didn't have the ability to really be a mayor, understand in-depth different ways of satisfying different. He was really good at removing a tree, making sure the asphalt out in front. He was great at that kind of stuff, the little things. But he couldn't see the bigger picture and how everything works for everybody to find a synergistic way of working that served all the people. And that's tough. It's tough getting the balance. Not easy to do. So anyways, we're going to go to our two-pane window. The two-pane. Let's not have too many copyright strikes, right? Right. So I got our good friend from Western Canada. He goes by the acronym Steve Boots. Now I say, Mr. Boots, you got a great sidekick. So when a sidekick comes on, is it Puss in Boots? Just saying. No pun intended, folks. Okay, so here we go. We're discussing housing plans. Let's put housing plans across the country. It's an issue. It's not exclusive to one area or another. But anyways, this video he's doing is Ontario housing plans. So let's look at that.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford, pictured here driving his invisible car.
Ooh, Dougie, look at that smile on that face there. Sure, he treats his family great. He's not a bad guy. Nothing wrong with the gentleman. He's a fine gentleman. He just does not understand politics and how to serve all the people. He's got a vision in his mind how to serve the people, and this is where he fails. Sorry, that's just my opinion, folks. It's arbitrary, subjective, and I stand by it.
Makes the sound effects and everything. He goes vroom vroom. Unfortunately, He did crash into the yawning void where once stood a bike lane. It was catastrophic.
Yeah, bike lanes. So now, and this is where, this guy's a bully. He's no different than Trump. He is a bully. And this is another issue, him dealing with Trump the way he's dealing with Trump. And then, he's blaming Trudeau. Just pointing fingers at people. He doesn't know how to fix anything. He doesn't know how to fix it. Knows how to point fingers. Knows how to do a buck of beer or buy at your local corner store in order to gain favoritism, to stay in power, because that's all that matters. King Dougie wants to be your prime minister. He's a fail as a premier, and the last thing you want to do is put him in the state of mind that he's in right now as your prime minister. It's a mistake. Pierre Poilievre. Mr. Poilievre, he's a fail also. Tax breaks. They got no solutions. Darn, I just got, grammar teacher got me. Got no solutions. They have no solutions. They have no solution, folks. Now listen to, Steve makes a few very salient points that you have to take into. He really does. Now listen carefully, please.
Anyway, when Doug Ford isn't crashing his invisible car, he's crashing the Ontario housing market. At least he's trying his best to. Housing starts are down year over year by 17% from April to September this year compared to last. And they built 2,300 less homes than the 4-year average. But don't worry, he's going to say that everything is super duper. In fact, he's just dusting off his hands and walking away, as the Ontario legislature is now going to be out of session for 11 weeks. So while you're working away, just know that Doug Ford is chilling in Muskoka until March 4th. Don't worry though, I'm sure he'll get in lots of snowmobiling. But Doug Ford's housing plan isn't just incompetent, it's cruel. So a recent Ontario court ruling found that you can't simply destroy an encampment of unhoused people if you cannot prove that there is an actively available shelter space for that person that they can access. You can't tear down the encampment. Doug Ford doesn't like that rule, so rather than make the shelter space available, he's got another plan. Suspending the rights of the unhoused. Seriously, he's planning to use the notwithstanding clause in order to suspend the charter rights of unhoused Ontarians in order to destroy encampments. Now, in Ontario, there are at least 1,400 encampments at most recent count, and there are 12...
Yeah, so here's the deal. He's going to do the notwithstanding clause to force that upon municipalities. He's also removed bike lanes using enacted the removal of bike lanes in the city of Toronto with the notwithstanding clause. Also, legislating that you cannot litigate against the province of Ontario. This guy wants his cake. He wants to eat it too. But there's a different way of doing it, Doug. You just got to use a little creativity. You've got great people that can help you in that department, but you have to give them a sense of direction. You're the leader. That's what leaders do, folks. They give the people a sense of direction. And he's a lost leader. He's going nowhere. He's been a fail from day one. The feds gave him $9 billion during COVID. And the most vulnerable people, he made it conditional that they get $300 by applying. Like, come on. Mr. Ford, get your act together. As a matter of fact, get your dumps together. Dumps? Yeah. Yeah. Don't mean to poop on anybody. So anyways, go back to this fine gentleman, Mr. Boots.
1,000 Ontarians already in the shelter system, and it is basically at capacity. There is nowhere near sufficient capacity for all of the people in these encampments. And Doug Ford knows that, and he's not going to do anything about it. He's just going to suspend the rights of the people living on the streets in order to give them nowhere else to go.
Plus, here's another thing. The general public is under the estimation that these people get money, welfare, whatever, Ontario Works, whatever you call it. That's not enough to friggin' get a room for a week. You don't realize how much these guys actually do get, and the little stipend they do get for housing, if they're in a rent geared to income place, there's a clawback for the Ontario government. None of the papers tell you about that. None of the newspapers or any journalist tells you about that because they don't look in depth at really what the issue is. So now, a single guy might get about $700. What are you going to do with $700 a month? Nowadays, you can barely buy toothpaste and a toothbrush just to take care of your friggin' teeth. And you expect to get a job when you lose your teeth? Come on. Guy sees a toothless guy and they say, holy crap, I'm not going to have him be the face of my business or her be the face of my business. $700 a month. So now, a portion of that, maybe what, $300 is towards $300 out of the 700 is portioned off. I'm just a little low here on it, but for all intents and purposes, we're very close. $300 is portioned off out of that stipend for lodging. So now, they get rent geared to income. So, say it's 30% of the overall $700. That's $210. So now the government's going to claw back from $300 to $210, $90. So that's $700 becomes $610. This is how the government's been doing it. They've been doing this for a long, long time. And another fact that you're not aware of, back in 1985, when Mike Harris started friggin' taking a cudgel to everything in Ontario, and all the municipalities that created a disaster for the healthcare system that has not recovered yet, 2024. Health system hasn't recovered. Kathleen Wynne, great lady. You may disagree with that. She unfortunately was under the shadow of this guy, McGuinty. That, her timing wasn't great. But she knew what she was doing. She did a good job. Even though she put a lot of money into it, and people said, liberals spend too much money. The system still has not recovered from Mike Harris. Still has not recovered. And this Doug Ford is running around, Prince Doug, using the notwithstanding clause. How often has that been used in the past 100 years? The only similar time was during 1972 when Pierre Trudeau, War Measures Act, this is how he deals with things. Bully, 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 because he has a limited capacity to do anything. Back to the show.
Does he have room in Muskoka? So first up, a question.
Does he have room in Muskoka? Yeah, he's got room. Oh, he's only got room for 3 people. The problem's much bigger than 3 people, Doug.
Where are these people supposed to go? Like I hear again and again, well, they just can't be in the park. Okay, where do you want them to be? If those encampments are destroyed, where are they supposed to go? What options do they have? Like, do you just want them to leave the city? Because then they're just going to be unhoused somewhere else. Problem hasn't been really solved. It just makes it somebody else's problem. But also,
just
pretty much all the services needed by vulnerable populations are only available in urban centers and typically downtown. So you're asking these people to move as far away as possible.
Here's another factor nobody's taken into consideration. I used to teach down in Chinatown, downtown Toronto, for 25 years, Tai Chi. And I've seen a lot of homeless people. I spoke to a lot of homeless people. And some were ex-employees of mine in the past. And one of the interesting byproducts of living on the street, these people, they don't want to live in the street. Circumstantially, they've been forced to live on the street. But one of the byproducts of living on the street is mental health issues. It's created by having to live on the street. And you're going to say, well, they choose to. Not everybody chooses to. It's not like what you think. You just keep coming up with these excuses. You can fix the problem. Finland fixed the problem. Did they do it perfectly? No. But at least they made the effort and they fixed the problem.
Well, from the services that they need in order to just what? Disappear? So they'd have to take transit, and people don't want them on transit either. What are vulnerable people supposed to do? And you may say, well, there's lots and lots of shelter spaces. Well, for starters, there isn't, and Doug Ford knows that. If there were enough shelter spaces, he wouldn't need to suspend the rights. But instead, he's going to suspend people's rights to safety and shelter. He is going to throw a token amount of money at shelters, $75.5 million, which is a fraction of what he spent on getting beer in corner stores. But I'm sure that'll fix everything. And when questioned further, the Ford government basically just points at existing spending and says how great they are, which leads to the obvious question, if the existing programs are actually good enough, why are there so many encampments? Like, if you are really hitting a home run on every swing, why are things going so badly? But no, all they have is victory laps. But more than that, they're going to basically criminalize homelessness. Now, in order to understand...
Did you hear that? Criminalize homelessness?
The situation, we need to recognize that there is a significant overlap between unhoused populations and those suffering from addiction, but they are not one and the same. And the reason for the overlap is very simple. The causes of both tend to overlap as well. People wind up unhoused because of unsustainable conditions. They don't just decide one day they want to live in a tent. People wind up addicted because they're
Okay, so now, they lose faith. Their spirit... their spirit gets broken and they lose hope, which is a real shame. And then you've got a guy that's going to criminalize homelessness, fine people they can't afford to rent, and you're going to add more financial burden upon a burden already. This way of penalizing doesn't solve anything. But here's the deal, folks. Steve Boots is going to go into, this Crombie, Miss Crombie, was it Barbara Crombie or whatever, the Ontario Liberal lady? She's got a half-decent plan. Not perfect, but half-decent plan. Much better than the Conservative plan. And then he looks at the NDP plan, which goes back to Andrea Horwath, so they've got no plan really, except for one from a bygone era. So here's the deal. I say it right now. I could fix the homeless problem. The problem can be fixed. And the way they're going about fixing, nobody knows how to fix it. They don't know how to fix it. There's ways to fix it. It can be fixed. Will it happen overnight? Absolutely not. But a great change can start today. And you're not doing it with Doug Ford. And everybody else is looking to get elected, and their plans are, well, we're not going to spend money, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. Because they won't get elected if they're looking at spending money. But then again, here's another thing, and this is where the average Joe does not understand how government works, and Doug Ford doesn't understand it either. There is zero-sum economics at play. And you say, what? What is zero-sum economics? I'll explain it to you. That's why infrastructure spending is so important. That's why immigration is so important. Everybody, immigration, putting the price of rents up. That's why rents are so high. No, you want to know why rents are so high? Rents are high because Airbnb is taking over the housing market, hotel market business as well, pushing them back. Meanwhile, the hotel business, which was set up for what Airbnb is trying to do. So the average guy is going to buy houses, going to do Airbnb, got to make a buck. Capitalist society, got to make a buck. You made an industry out of renovating houses for a profit. Then you take away rent controls. And then you don't modify the LTB statutes, like an N12. Guy's going to be kicked out in the street. He's got to prove. Meanwhile, he's probably under financial distress. Once he's gotten an N12 out in the street, can't prove it. So nothing has been revised, revamped. No initiative to try to do the right thing to help the people that you're choosing to serve by being in that capacity. Or are you just there to look good? Doug Ford, are you just an ornament? Looking to get brassed up and drive your car and look good? Because the issue with traffic, cycle lanes, you failed with that. Miserable fail. And it's going to cause lives to be lost. One human life is precious. And you're going to lose a life. I'm not going to go any further into this video with this. This is a waste of time. It's not a waste of time. Steve Boots does a great job. His cohort in crime, the cat. So maybe we should call him Puss in Boots, right? Yikes, did I say that? Back to my main screen. Back to my main screen. So where am I going to go with this? I'm going to say there is a fix for this. I can make the fix. I can do it. I can do it. Doug Ford can't do it. The Liberal leader Crombie can't do it. Whoever the NDP leader is can't do it. I'd gladly work with Olivia Chow to make sure we do it. Simple as that. So now, I'm going to say love and peace to everyone. Stay safe. And do what my two buddies do when you get stressed out. They'll show you what to do. Watch closely. Take care. Talk to you soon.